hope you enjoyed our picture. I know I'm going to enjoy the pictures I'm taking. For this is Monument Valley, one of the most beautiful scenic spots in America. And today it should be doubly interesting, for we have man-made sights to add to nature's circus. Director John Ford is shooting some exciting scenes for his new picture, The Searchers, starring John Wayne. The company's just down the road, so let's drive over and watch. Welcome once again to the land of the Navajo. This is an especially happy time here in Monument Valley. Yet it has nothing to do with the ancient tribal laws or customs of the Navajo. The current excitement stems from a visit to the valley by director John Ford, whom the Navajos have adopted into their tribe and named Nataninez, which means the tall leader. The man next to him in the uniform is the star of the Searchers, John Wayne. In the past weeks, we've shown you some of the difficulties and hazards in shooting a picture here. You've seen roads built and a city erected to transport and house the hundreds of people that comprise the cast and crew. Well, today, most of those difficulties are behind us. The roads, such as they are finished, the buildings up. And the advantages of filming in Monument Valley begin to accrue to us. In addition to the great scenic wonders, we have an endless supply of real Indians. Indians who get their clothes from the Hollywood wardrobe department after slight alterations. For the grime and dust of the valley must be ground into both the costumes and the men. The Navajo Braves are magnificent horsemen, but still Director Ford could not ask them to take the falls that he will require in many of the sequences. So for the dangerous spills, he hired professionals, Hollywood stunt riders. And while these men are brave, they are not foolhardy. They minimize the chances of being hurt, not only for themselves, but for their horses as well. For the personal safety of each depends upon the other. These men, who can take a nasty spill without getting hurt, have trained their horses to do the same. And now that men and horses are fit and ready, the next step consists of converting these pleasant young men into fierce, bloodthirsty Comanches. Over to one side, the cameraman is getting ready to perform his job. A job that is normally not dangerous, but which today involves some element of risk. He will photograph the riders leaping a barrier from the point of view of a worm. Let's watch. Well, that was a little too close. The camera got in the way of a flying hoof. But it's all in a day's work. And the Hollywood crews never lose their sense of humor. But despite the spills and hazards, the work must go on. The hot and tedious work of shooting a picture on location. The dangerous work of filming an action picture, where even the camera crew must join the stuntmen in an Indian raid. After much hard riding, the shot is completed, and the men return for a well-deserved rest. It may seem a bit odd that from this type of work, it is their feet that hurt them the most. But for all the excitement of the chase and all the beauty of the great outdoors, The Searchers tells a tense personal story of two men, played by John Wayne and Jeffrey Hunter. Two men thrust together by their hatred of a common enemy, but torn apart by the angry passions within them.
What do you mean you don't have any blood kin? What, Debbie's your blood kin?
Not no more, she ain't.
Well, you can keep your will. I don't want any of your property. Besides, I ain't forgetting you was getting all set to shoot her yourself. What kind of a man are you, anyway?
She's been living with a buck. She's not that
Shut
bad.
your dirty mouth! I hope you die.
That'll be the day.
And while the scene between John Wayne and Jeffrey Hunter was being photographed, a second unit has been rehearsing another sequence. For just as in the picture where the search goes on despite innumerable handicaps, here on location, the work goes on despite the sun, the sand, and just plain fatigue. They are taking advantage of the daylight to carefully plan and rehearse a scene which will be shot at night. And here's how you'll see it in The Searchers. The cliff overlooks the village of Scar, renegade Comanche chief. Jeff Hunter has asked the Rangers to be allowed to slip into the village in advance of the attack.
Debbie. Oh, Debbie. Don't say anything, Debbie. It's your brother Marty, Debbie. I'm going to take you away. I'm going to get you out of here, Debbie.
Yes, Marty. Oh, yes, Marty.
Yes, I think it's an exciting story, a tender story. And when you see the C.V. Whitney picture, The Searchers, in your local theater in VistaVision and Technicolor, I think you'll agree that it's also a beautiful picture. I'll be back in a moment, but first, a word about next week's television presentation.